As March comes to a close, what seemed like the calm before the storm has now turned into a question of whether Valve can stop the bleeding. Market cap is continuing to dwindle and panic is reaching an all-time high. But honestly, that's fine with me.
And now for our Counter-Strike report. New York's very own Mike Water.
Welcome back to DE News. I'm your host, Mike Water 9. Our market cap tool has been reinstated by Price Empire, and we will move forward with the new estimation, and we will look back 2 weeks in the past to today to reflect the general sentiment while the market cap indicator was not present to us. And it shows pretty much what we expect, 4.55 billion to 4.38 billion, a 4% loss roughly on the week. Now before the alarms go off in your brain, I would not panic too much. Now, Price Empire just reworked their market cap. As we know and as I've shared before, the previous market cap estimation took into account coverts that were actually used during trade-ups, meaning that they were no longer existing. So while the new market cap line is much lower than where it was previously, let's not forget that that other blue line that was there before was also quite inflated. And that was because the general state of liquidity and general state of the market before the knife trade-up update, right? There were tons of gloves and tons of knives listed at $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, right? And while you'll always have people buying and selling at those prices, there were not a lot of them. And thus you had a lot of listings of knives and gloves at $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 times their supply, adding to the market cap, but no one was buying at these prices, right? So that old line was inflated as well. And as I say, don't really pay attention to the number, for it is not important. The direction is what really matters at the end of the day. And when you have more knives and more options available to people at lower prices, more liquidity is happening, more transactions are happening, the economy is stimulated, and thus we are in a healthier spot than we were before that, bar none. But this week's price movement, of course, is downwards. And why is that? Well, for once, it's not directly on China taking their money out and rotating, but rather Valve is to do with this for the most part. And it's completely their own doing, right? In a way, Valve conditioned their players to expect an update every 6 months in accordance to basically any type of content coming out within the game. New seasons drop every 6 months, new terminals/cases drop every 6 months, and of course the Armory has rotated every 6 months thus far since its induction in October 2024. 6 months ago, we lost graphic design, we lost character craft stickers, and we lost the gallery case, and we received 2 new charm collections and 2 new sticker collections. The last time a collection was added was the Train 2025, and that was on March 31st, 2025. But if we zoom out and take a look at it, right, these collections have been in the game for a year and a half and a year respectively, depending on which one you're looking at. And in Valve time, that's not really a long time whatsoever. The problem was, and the problem for this panic and trending downwards of pricing in the Armory, is because since we've conditioned the community to expect an update on Armory first, every day that passes after April 1st, well, that's merely just going to amplify and multiply panic every single day in which there is no news regarding the Armory. Are the people selling irrational? Yes, absolutely. But without these people, Charles Darwin wouldn't have a career, and they do, unfortunately, make up the majority of buyers and sellers, meaning that they're going to dictate price more so than the rational players within the market. Therefore, we're going to have to account for them. What happened on April 1st, the expected Armory rotation, was actually the induction of Animgraph 2, the beta build, and while the update itself is actually, very positive for the upside of the game and the future of the game long term, we are talking in terms of the market, and the market is not happy with the update it received on April 1st. Just want to give a quick shout out to Tomic. If you are privy to the community, you know that he was the guy who had a bunch of reds and coverts right before the trade up update. Probably made a fucking boatload of cash. He joined our Twitch stream a couple days ago and donated to us a survival knife tiger tooth. So appreciate you, brother. Thank you very much. I will spread the love. We'll give it away on Twitch when that Armory rotation happens. Now, here's the thing though. These collections, they've already been referenced in the game code due to the changelogs and people being able to, go through them and read through the changelog notes. So they're in the game. And it doesn't take long for these things to be added anyway. That March 13th deadline means dick. Now, given how quickly the devs are addressing a lot of the bugs within the Animgraph 2 beta, makes me think that this will be rolled out into the full patch sooner rather than later. So it should be reasonable to expect the full launch soon. And since that they've broken their pattern and we cannot reasonably give an estimation as to when this stuff comes out now, I think my best guess would be they release the Armory rotation alongside the full release of Animgraph 2. Because regardless, Animgraph 2 release is probably the biggest change we've received in the game since the actual release of CS2 in 2023. And I expect, most likely at this point, for there to be no last chance news, just a full rotation whenever that does occur, which would be bullish because you'd have people panic selling and panic buying, which is good if you want to sell into the news, and you won't have increased redemptions during that time in which the collections have last chance fucking plaster right all over the top of it. And at the end of the day, take a fucking Midol, take a fucking chill pill, shut up about it. Valve has a financial incentive to keep the items within the Armory valuable, because if they're no longer valuable or if they crash, well then who the fuck's gonna buy Armory passes in the future? They know what they have, they know there's a long-term plan there. So, them taking another week or two, it doesn't really bother me, and it shouldn't bother you all too much. Be patient, not everything goes the way in which you want it to. That's life. It also presents to you a pretty fine buying opportunity here. Some more so than others, alright? I think Overpass is probably fine. I think Train is definitely good. As I said before, Train will be good even if it stays in the Armory for another year, just because of how low it's redeemed, and even if new collections come in, no one's still going to redeem Train. And as well as the older Charm collections, I think they're pretty much guaranteed to be on their way out in the next rotation. Something like the M4 Fade, no, I wouldn't sell it, but no, I probably wouldn't buy another one here. Unless you find a complete moron selling his 99% Fade one for market price, then yeah, you can move in on one of those. Definitely a good play skin, right, in its own right, and will long-term be fine. The thing is with the M4 Fade is that it'll probably take the brunt of the damage, because that's the people one are most uncertain about its future. So while I wouldn't necessarily buy another one, I'm definitely not going to sell it, right? 80,000 supply is a lot, but it's not even close to the numbers you see in cases and in plenty of other coverts that command just as much, if not more, than the M4 Fade right now. Selling at a loss just locks in your loss. Holding on to it keeps your position up in the air. And that's why the market's funny, right? Whenever you feel like selling, that's usually when you should be buying. And whenever you feel like buying, that's usually when you should be selling. Disconnecting your emotions and stopping being married to your positions is what's really going to make you a better trader overall, because your emotions are what keep you from making the most amount of money in which you aspire to. That usually comes with time, and once that comes, you'll find that making money will be a lot easier for you. And speaking of taking advantage of the panic, there's quite a few good opportunities for arbitrage on UU Skins, today's sponsor, which brings us to the arbitrage play of the week. As I'm sure you're aware, UU Skins is the only marketplace that offers direct peer-to-peer access to China, and it is reflected in the price points. Massive list of offerings, the lowest prices on the market, and they've recently added the UU Happy Shop, in which you can redeem daily points for free rewards just by using the site. Guaranteed delivery within 10 hours and a 24/7 support that is always there to help if you need. This website will be your biggest tool in making the most profit you can within this market, and I'll show you right now. The arbitrage play of the week is going to be from the Train 2025 collection, the MP9 Latte Rush in factory new condition. As we know, this is a great buy 10 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, and it's an even better buy today. A 0-to-1 float cap, making it extremely hard to get from the Armory by redemptions, and of course it trades up to the 0-to-1 long dog, which means that the MP9 will always have a steadily decreasing supply when it decides to go from the Armory. It currently sits at $240 roughly on the Steam community market and sells at that price, and it goes for around $168 on UU Skins. Now that is a $70 price difference, taking into account the 15% tax on Steam, and you are left with roughly a $60 profit per MP9 purchased. Now that's a roughly 33% gain that'll get you about 3 free Armory passes. So pretty much a no-brainer, and if any news does happen in the next 7 days, your MP9 will increase while you're holding it for those 7 days in which you're not able to trade or market it. This is a very easy play, a no-brainer in my opinion. And while the skin market still decides to lay low, as whales are most likely waiting to pivot off of Armory news, we do have some movements in the sectors of cases and stickers. Now, Gallery and Fracture were the front runners of the surge in cases that we saw over the last week, with Fracture reaching over $1 for the first time since 2023, and Gallery shooting from $1.40 to $1.60 in a few days' time. Fracture has since pulled back a tiny bit, and while I expect it to kind of stabilize above its previous levels that sat around 80 cents, the supply of skins within this case will probably make it pretty hard to stay above $1. I could see it ranging in that 85 to 95 cent space for a while. But regardless, growth is showing. People are showing their sentiment by way of their buying patterns in regards to cases. And my previous video that I posted 2 days ago goes in depth about cases in general and more specific cases that, look interesting from either a bullish or bearish perspective. So feel free to take a look at that. But one of the main points I made in the video is that skins usually front run cases in terms of movement and action, right? Skins usually move before cases move, so, pay attention to the skins. because when cases surge and the skins do not surge to reflect the surge in case price, well, then there's a mismatch there, and it'll probably present itself a short-term swing opportunity. And stickers are now finally starting to get interesting once again. It's been a while. We did see a little bit of action regarding stickers before the dead hand terminal released, but the terminal being released obviously took all of the attention, so it kind of shut down a little bit early, and we're seeing it come back this week. Now, for the most part, most stickers stayed pretty much sideways since that dead hand update, but Rio 2022 has looked pretty good over the last week or so. Now, Rio 2022 are famously not great looking stickers, but they have been surging over the last week, with some holos doubling on average $2 to $3 to $4 to $6. But doubling and reaching $6 as your price point kind of speaks to how poorly the Rio stickers are received within the market. There's just not great demand for these stickers and not great application numbers, which is going to reflect in the price movements of the sticker. I think keep an eye on it, but I think if you have some, you could sell and have a great selling opportunity here, but I wouldn't necessarily buy into these prices. I think there's just too much risk, right? They don't look good enough, and stickers are a riskier play in general compared to skins because you can't trade up to them, so there's no price floors built in. So a lot of what you're going off of is aesthetic demand, and there's no aesthetic demand with Rio 2022, which means prices can go from $6 to $2 overnight without anything you can do about it. In that sense, capsules are a better way to get exposure without, putting yourself at risk completely of losing most of your money in like a night's time and being able to do nothing about it. Because of all the drama, I'll probably do a sticker report and an Armory report this week because I think we need one. That way we can look at application numbers, look at holos to see if there's any specific holos within Rio 2022 that are actually worth purchasing and not just going off of the hype driving up prices. We'll now get into the sticker craft of the week. The first one comes from McNuggets in the Discord chat. This one looks fantastic. It is a 4X Navi Cato 15 on a AK-47 Bloodsport. I mean, the colors are perfectly matched. It looks like a racing type of car, type of advertisement in a good way. Fantastic looking skin. Cato 15s, can't really beat them. And we'll also give him the clip of the week because he uses the sticker craft of the week in it. Here he is on Dust 2. He throws a flash over top mid, so flashed nobody. Just want to make that clear. Runs over to long, spams the door, gets a kill. Fantastic clip. Awesome. I was enthralled the entire time. The next sticker craft of the week is going to go to Stab. Shout out Stab. He's a little bit of a freak, but he's chill. That's because he only crafts specifically .42069 float skins. Shout out you, Stab. He sent me an M4 Electrum in the funny number float. He crafted this .42069 Eye of Horus, named it High of Horus, so hilarious, and then he put a bunch of complexity holos on it. Looks sick as fuck. And now we get into the watch list, baby. Last week's watch list, as I said, we kept it light because we were expecting an update. We're still expecting that update, and prices moved down as a broad sector, so I think we did all right by not purchasing into things and keeping our cash liquid, because now our money's worth more considering everything is down. Some of the Tech 9s in which we've called, like the Mummies Rotten Ice Capped, have done pretty well over the last week, considering the state of the market, so that's fine. As for this week's watch list, we are going to probably stay pretty similar, right? Light on our feet until we get this update. If people are panic selling and you find good floats in any of the collections really, but more so Overpass and Train, those will probably be great buys for yourself. Same thing with the charms, rare patterns, keep an eye out, place some buy orders if you have the cash liquid. But the main play will probably be the gallery case, not the case itself, but the skins within it. Now if you notice, the cases went from $1.40 to $1.60 over the last week or so. All of these skins within it have either stayed sideways or trended downwards. Now that doesn't really make sense, right? That would make sense a month from now when the openings actually happen and the guns are able to be sold, but it's been 7 days since this run-up's happened and all of the prices are not reflecting the case's movement. So I think in the very short term, you probably have a good swing opportunity with some of these skins to increase, at least in line with the gallery case. But you obviously cannot wait too long. That gap is going to disappear. That mismatch simply isn't going to last, and I think that gallery is the safer play out of the two between itself and Fracture, because Fracture just has way too much supply, and I don't think this price in which the case is sitting at is going to live long term, meaning the prices won't really have to catch up to this price that it's sitting at right now. As always, keep your eyes on stickers, right? Maybe look at Rio, see if you could find a little bit of a mismatch play there, maybe with the glitters, but I wouldn't look all too heavily. I probably would not move too heavily into Rio 2022 as a whole, but as always, keep your eyes on those bad boys. That's all for the DE news today. I will catch you guys next time. Peace.